Welcome back to another episode of the Executive Code Podcast. Again, if you want to find out more information about ourselves, what is that we do, and how we can help and support you to find your life purpose, help you with business mastery and also personal mastery, head over to paulwilliamdavis.com, where all the ways of getting in touch with us are on our website. Again, it's paulwilliamdavis.com. I'm joined here with Nicole, and Nicole's got another question that she wants answered this week. So what have you got for us this week, Nicole?
So, Paul, one thing about being any sort of consultant, be it an accountant, lawyer, or therapist, for example, is that people will frequently come to you asking for free advice. So should we be giving free professional advice, and how can we politely decline?
What I'm going to say is it happens all the time, and it happens for everybody. What you'll find with people in professional services, like what you mentioned, maybe a consultant or an accountant or whatever it be, is that our natural disposition is to be of service, to help other people. So we're naturally inclined to help other people, and we want to help other people. That's what we're here for. But you'll find it in all walks of life. You'll find it, for example, if you knew a doctor and you were sitting beside him in a restaurant or a bar, you'd probably, if you had an ailment, you'd be asking the doctor, so have you got some advice for us? What I always find funny, you'll often see comedians talk about this on talk shows, whereby the comedian could be in a cafe or a restaurant or whatever it be, and somebody will walk up to them and ask them, tell us a joke, and they're not even on stage. So it's like as if they have to be switched on in order to actually tell us a joke. But that's human nature. That's just people in general. In answer to your question, should we give free advice or should we politely decline? There's a case for both, to be honest. There's a case for giving valuable information and being able to help somebody, and there's a case when you shouldn't and not give the advice. I'm going to talk about what I do and perhaps how I advise my clients. First of all, for me, I use my intuition. So I intuit as regards the person that's approaching me on what it is or where they're coming from in order for the advice. So let me explain that. There are people that are absolutely genuine in the help that they want, but they're not looking for something for free. They're absolutely looking for genuine help, but they also have that natural disposition that they also want to help other people or to help the person that they're getting the advice from. So they're the people that I will absolutely give free advice to. Absolutely. There's other people, however, and their whole focus on life, or the vast majority of their focus, is about wanting things for free. And they've a lesson to learn, and it can be a pretty stark lesson. And I see so many of these people, and it's not in any disrespect to them, but there's a lesson for them to learn. So what I do is I just decline, or I give them a way of how they can get the advice in a proper way. So to answer your question in very, very short, there's a case for both. There's a case where I will absolutely genuinely help somebody when I know that they're a genuine individual and they're looking for that reciprocity, meaning that they're quite happy and willing to give something in return. It doesn't necessarily have to be money, but there's something that they will give in return, and they want to have that exchange. And that's what I want to talk about. Whereas there's other people that just want the free stuff, and they will consume and demand free stuff from all different ways. And they're the people that I will direct towards a particular offer or a particular way of how they can actually engage. To answer your question in terms of how do you politely decline, it's having an offer ready for somebody, for those kind of people. And what I mean by that is, so for example, I've got a system in my business whereby I call it air traffic control. So people, as you being a pilot, Nicole, you'll understand this. ATC, or air traffic control, is where you're coming into an airport and you'll have a communication with the ATC in order to get your where you're to come into land, as in the runway and your altitude and all that kind of things. So I just use that as a terminology because I use a lot of aviation terms in my business as a way that if somebody wants to get advice and it's just, they don't want to necessarily be a long-term client in terms of a coaching or a mentoring client. They just want to get, very, very short advice, very, very quick. And now they've got the information that they need in order to move on. That's the offer that I have, which is I call it air traffic control. whereby we have a short session. There's a payment in relation to that session. We know what the time frame is, and we know what we want to get out of that particular session. So when the methodology, I suppose, I teach my clients is have an offer that you can give to potential people that are looking for that free advice. So therefore, if you don't have an offer ready, they can't buy. So you got to understand from that perspective, when you have an offer, now there's something that they can buy. Second of all, once you've put the work into preparing what that offer looks like and what the fee is for that particular offer, now you're already prepared for somebody that approaches you, whether it be in a pub or cafe or a social gathering, and they're looking for that free advice. Now there's a way that you can talk to them and say, look, yeah, by all means, let's contact the office or let's set up a meeting, and here's what we can go through in this. So what you're doing is you're describing that offer for that individual. Now, the people that I know from, because I can pick it up intuitively, that they literally just want the free stuff and they're not willing to give something in return, they will never take up that offer. Never. And it happens all the time. Whereas the people that were absolutely genuine in what it is that they want to seek the advice from, and they value the service that you're delivering, no matter what type of service profession that you are, they value the service that you're offering, they are the ones that will buy the offer. And here's the thing. It's not necessarily a case that they have to exchange money. Before money was ever invented, we bartered. So people can barter in different things and exchange different things in replace for the service that they're given. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be about money. So be open for those scenarios, because you could get an introduction to somebody. So you're giving advice to somebody, and they could potentially, under agreement, give an introduction to somebody else that could turn into financial benefit or financial business. So there's multiple ways of how you can exchange your service for what you're going to receive in return. And here's the most critical point that I really want people to understand, and the lesson that the people that are looking for stuff for free don't get, and they need to learn at some point, and they'll have to learn at some point in the future anyway. And that's the law of fair exchange. When you don't understand the universal law of fair exchange, well, then that's where, if you're expecting everything for free out of life, well, then what you're going to get return is zero. When you understand the law of exchange of what you give is what you receive, now you'll understand that when you're making an engagement with whoever it might be, that there has to be that exchange of energy going through. Hence the reason why I said it can go from a bartering perspective. It doesn't have to be about money. It's about the exchange of energy. Money is just energy. That's all it is. When you break everything down, all matter is just energy. So the law of fair exchange is making sure that there is an exchange of energy between the two parties. What I intuitively pick up is whether an individual is coming from a genuine perspective and whether they're having that universal law of fair exchange, or whether they literally just want the free stuff. What you'll find is that the people that want the free stuff, they'll go and they'll look in all different scenarios. So they're the kind of people that will, in business, I've seen them over years. Like I'm 22 years in business now, and over all of those years, they will typically the people that will look for the grants, meaning the government support, in order to do what it is that they're to do, and they're not willing to pay for anything that they want to do. They'll go to all the free courses. They'll do all the free challenges. They'll download all the free books. They'll access all the different resources for free, but they don't fundamentally understand, perhaps because they've never been taught, but they don't fundamentally, but there will be a wake-up call for them, because what they realize is that they're not making progress in their life, their career, or their business, because they're not putting the work in, and they don't fully understand the law of fair exchange. When you know the law of fair exchange, you know how it operates and how it works and how it has to take place, and there has to be that exchange. Now that's when you're making progress. So therefore, the people that, in answer to your question, Nicole, whereby they come and they look for the free stuff, they'll continue looking for the free stuff until such times they actually realize, you know what, if I want something of value, I've got to pay for it. And that's how I advise my clients, and it's how I operate my own business.
It's especially tricky when it comes to family and friends, and that's not exclusive to advice, but in general in life, because you don't want to ruin the friendship or relationship. But it's also hard to, as you mentioned, constantly give and give without getting anything in return. Or if you spend a lot of time and energy giving well-meaning advice to friends and family because they ask for it, but they decide not to follow it. And then you're like, why did I do that?
Exactly. Yeah, that's so disheartening. But what you want to look at then is when it comes to friends and family, one is I generally have a rule. I don't engage with friends and family in relations. But if you were to, you can have what will be referred to as friends rates. So you're still saying, okay, yeah, no, look, we can engage. I won't charge you the full fee that I would normally charge a client, as in a third party. I'll charge you a reduced fee. So that's friends or mates rates, what it's referred to as. But what you find is, people will, because they're not paying for anything, they don't value what it is or the advice that you're giving, because there hasn't been that exchange. So therefore, they don't implement the advice that you're given. Exactly what you say, Nicole. You stand back saying, why on earth did I give the advice if they weren't going to implement it? And then it becomes resentful from that perspective. And that resentment is an indication of fair exchange hasn't taken place, because you're given something of value, they haven't done the work, or they haven't returned anything in return. So that exchange, that energy exchange hasn't happened. And that's why somebody will feel resentful.
And it's human nature to value something more if you have to pay for it, if you have to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
As a freelancer, sometimes clients will ask for like a free trial as part of your proposal or application to their job. And unfortunately, sometimes there's scams because the client has actually broken down a huge task into smaller tasks and then given each freelancer who's applied to them a small task to complete. So they just have to put it all together and then they get away with free labor. And it's particularly bad in creative fields where, the clients steal your ideas during the interview process and don't give you the job, but use your idea in the end. So it's hard. And, it's about protecting.
Yeah, you just refuse them, Nicole. I wouldn't even take them on board.
Yeah. And, I've had to learn the hard way freelancing on, even the platform Upwork is supposed to protect you and all that. Yeah, I've had to learn the hard way sometimes, because sometimes it's, such a small task and you're like, yeah, I can do this for free. It's such a small trial and, it looks like he'll give me the job if I do this free trial really well. And then after you give them the information, they kind of don't talk to you anymore. So, yeah. So that's one thing, having to protect your...
What you could have set up, say that particular situation, Nicole, is that you could create a small product or a small offer and say, okay, if you want me to do this small task, here's the small fee. It won't be my normal fee, but here's my reduced fee or small fee in order to cover that small specific task. And then you'll know whether they're a genuine buyer or not.
Yeah. And it can be really small, compared to your normal rate. But as you mentioned the friends rate, right? So this could be even for like strangers too, where if they have to pay like $10, they don't want to go through that trouble. If they're not genuine and legitimate, they don't want to go to the trouble of that. They're just probably going to move on to the next person who will do it for free. So that's one way to kind of weed out the scams and, the legitimate clients.
It can be done very, very politely, very, very businesslike. In all different scenarios. It's just having, I suppose the advice I would give is, one is have the offers ready for the different circumstances that you're going to come across. And then also have the script ready in your mind as regards when somebody does ask you what it is that you're going to say. So the more you have that prepared, well, then the easier it is to just respond very, very quickly, because you've already got that prepared in your own mind. So for example, if you're at a party and a friend comes up to you, wants something done, or is looking for the advice, because you already have that script in your mind prepared, now you can, it becomes less awkward trying to get the words out to explain, okay, yeah, no, I'll do it,
And sometimes you just don't want to talk about work when you're at a social event, like a party, right? And, someone comes up to you happen to sit next to someone who starts asking you about your work and what you do, and then starts asking for freebies. You don't really have to do that. If you don't want to.
And they're not valuing the friendship. They're not valuing basically what it is that you can give. One of the things that I do in my own business, like I've as you know, I have a whole different team, but so one of the assistants, will be the one. So Claire basically sets up all the administration, sets up all the different appointments and so on. So she'll do a lot of work from that perspective. So if I get questions like that when I'm out in different scenarios, my default setting or response will be, well, I'll get Claire to get in contact with you. So Claire will then set up. So Claire's my assistant, executive assistant. So she will deal with all the administration side of things, and she'll start booking in the diary and all that kind of things. So as you're building your business, it's something that you can start to look at. How can you bring in different people into your business? They don't have to be full-time employees. Just as like, the engagement that we have, Nicole, in terms of you're operating for other clients as a freelancer, as well as developing your career as a pilot. Equally, I've got other people as being, for one better word, virtual or freelancers around the world, whereby they do very specific work. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a full-time employee. You can have specialists in their field actually doing that kind of work for you. So that can help.
I just thought of something, if someone like a friend asks you for free advice or, like a quick question, right? It's always a quick question and one more question. You can always refer them to another consultant and casually mention that their rate is lower than yours.
Yeah.
So they know that, they're not just going to get a freebie all the time, especially when it's, the 10th one more question.
Exactly. Like I have come across somebody that I think they call it in effect a quick question consultation. So it might be only 15 minutes or even 10 minutes, but there's a fee attaching to the 10 minutes. And it removes the tire kickers. Okay, so we hope that advice was helpful for anybody that's out there in providing professional service, because no doubt if you're in professional service, you will no doubt get a number of people coming your way looking for free advice. So how do you tackle those people, and how can you make sure that you are operating in line with the Universal Law of Fair Exchange? Start to look at what can you implement in your own business based on what we just discussed. But until next time, I wish you every success.